Michael McDonald's voice didn't just join the Doobie Brothers, it quietly reshaped them. When that smooth, soulful tenor entered a band once known for denim, grit, and barroom energy, it signaled a transformation few saw coming. To the public, it sounded effortless, like a natural evolution toward radio-friendly sophistication. But inside the band, the change felt heavier. What audiences heard as polish, some members felt as displacement. For years, McDonald avoided publicly unpacking that moment, choosing respect over revision. Now, at 72, his reflections reveal a story not of ambition, but of circumstance. He never arrived intending to redefine a band's identity. Yet his voice, so distinctive and emotionally resonant, became inseparable from the Doobies' most successful era. Fame followed, accolades piled up, but the cost was quieter, an internal shift that altered relationships, roles, and the very soul of a group built on brotherhood. Before the spotlight found him, long before Grammys and chart-topping hits, Michael McDonald was a working musician paying his dues far from center stage. Born in St. Louis, he grew up immersed in music, absorbing gospel, soul, and rhythm-driven traditions that would later define his style. In the early 1970s, Los Angeles became his classroom, where he worked as a session vocalist and keyboardist, blending seamlessly into other artists' projects. His time touring with Steely Dan sharpened his precision and professionalism, teaching him restraint, nuance, and the power of subtlety. Yet recognition remained elusive. He was respected, not famous. McDonald didn't chase stardom, he chased excellence. That mindset made him dependable, adaptable, and quietly invaluable. Ironically, those same qualities positioned him for a turning point he never planned, one born not from ambition, but from a sudden crisis that changed the course of an already successful band. A temporary role becomes permanent. In 1975, the Doobie Brothers faced an unexpected emergency when frontman Tom Johnston was sidelined by serious health issues mid-tour. Commitments couldn't be canceled, and the band needed immediate help. Michael McDonald stepped in as a temporary solution, offering support rather than replacement. At first, it was about survival, not reinvention. But once McDonald's voice hit the stage and studio, something shifted. His soulful phrasing and melodic instincts resonated deeply with audiences and radio programmers alike. Songs like "Takin' It to the Streets" introduced a new emotional palette, and the response was undeniable. What began as a stopgap slowly became a new direction. The label encouraged it, fans embraced it, and momentum carried it forward. When Johnston returned, he found a band already leaning into a sound that felt unfamiliar. No confrontation occurred, just a quiet realization that change had already taken root. Two identities, one band. Tom Johnston wasn't just a singer, he was the Doobie Brothers' foundation. His blues rock sensibility and high-energy presence shaped their early identity and biggest hits. When health forced him to step back, the band didn't intend to move on without him. Yet the industry rarely pauses. As McDonald's material gained traction, decisions increasingly reflected commercial opportunity rather than nostalgia. Johnston officially stepped away in 1977, citing health, though many sensed the deeper truth. The band had outgrown its original form. There was no villain, only timing and momentum. McDonald didn't push anyone aside. He filled a space that expanded around him. Still, the emotional cost was real. The group now carried two legacies, one rooted in rootsy rock, the other in refined soul. Reconciling those identities proved difficult, and the distance between them quietly widened, reshaping the band from within. Success that came with distance. By the late 1970s, the Doobie Brothers were enjoying their greatest commercial success. Albums like Minute by Minute dominated the charts, and What a Fool Believes earned industry-wide acclaim. From the outside, it looked like triumph. Inside, however, the atmosphere felt different. The collaborative, jam-oriented spirit that once defined the band gradually gave way to a more structured, studio-driven process. McDonald's meticulous approach brought clarity and polish, but it also changed how members interacted creatively. Some felt less connected to the final product, contributing parts rather than shaping direction. It wasn't personal, it was procedural. The band had become more professional, less communal. While audiences celebrated the sound, longtime fans and members sensed something missing. Evolution had delivered success, but it also introduced a quiet distance between musicians, between eras, and between what the band was and what it had become. Contracts, credits, and quiet shifts. As the band's sound evolved, so did the business behind it. Songwriting credits, publishing arrangements, and contractual roles began reflecting the new creative reality. McDonald's increasing contributions naturally earned him greater recognition, but for founding members, it felt like a gradual dilution of influence. In the music industry, these changes rarely arrive with dramatic announcements. They emerge through paperwork and percentages. No public disputes followed, no headlines screamed betrayal. Instead, there was silence, professional, restrained, but telling. Some saw fairness. McDonald wrote the hits. Others saw imbalance. A band once built on shared identity now tilted toward one voice. Both perspectives held truth. The shift wasn't malicious, it was structural. Yet structure shapes power, and power shapes identity. Over time, the Doobie Brothers became less a collective and more a vessel for a specific sound, one that brought acclaim, but also redefined ownership of the band's future. When tension finally surfaced, for years differences remained unspoken, managed through professionalism and distance. But pressure has a way of surfacing. During a 1980 tour stop, a disagreement over creative direction reportedly became more direct than usual. It wasn't about ego, it was about belonging. Longtime members voiced concerns that the band felt less like a shared endeavor and more like a showcase for a single style. McDonald, known for his reserved nature, didn't intend to dominate, but he also couldn't deny the reality around him. The conversation ended without resolution, yet its impact lingered. Soon after, departures followed. Not dramatic exits, but quiet decisions to step away. The tour continued, the music played on, but something essential had shifted. The Doobie Brothers still functioned, but the emotional glue that once bound them had loosened, leaving behind a polished sound and a fractured sense of unity. Stepping away from the center, by 1981, even Michael McDonald felt the weight of his position. Carrying the creative expectations of an entire band was exhausting, especially when it came with unspoken tension. He began considering a different path, one that allowed freedom without the burden of redefining a legacy. When he eventually stepped away, it wasn't with fanfare or conflict, but with quiet relief. The band, now fragmented, drifted into hiatus and later reunions rooted in nostalgia. McDonald pursued a solo career that suited his introspective style, free from comparison. In later years, reunions brought him back alongside original members, creating moments of harmony that audiences cherished. Yet offstage, relationships remained cordial rather than close. Time had softened edges, not erased them. The music endured, but the distance remained, a reminder that success can unite people publicly while separating them privately. Finally, telling the truth. Decades later, Michael McDonald finally spoke with clarity about that era, not to assign blame, but to acknowledge complexity. In a quiet interview, he admitted he never intended to take over or redefine the Doobie Brothers. He was filling in, then staying, then shaping something he hadn't planned. He expressed regret, not for the music, but for the unintended consequences. He wished he'd understood the weight of silence, how not objecting can still change outcomes. His reflection wasn't an apology, but an honest reckoning with circumstance. McDonald saved the band and changed it, elevated it and distanced it from its roots. Both truths coexist. His legacy isn't simple, but it is undeniable. By finally speaking, he reframed the story, not as betrayal or takeover, but as a moment where talent, timing, and humanity collided, leaving music history forever altered.